Welcome back to the most fun track of the WTF's SRE
Woo!
conference. Woo! I hope you enjoyed that panel. I thought it was great. I've got a lot of time for Hannah. She's one of my dear friends. So yeah, I'm happy to be back. This is where the magic happens. We've got lots of interesting stuff happening in the next couple of hours. So Charlotte, what did you think of the panel?
Great discussion. I did miss some of it to get some snacks, to be honest.
I mean, snacks are important. I mean, I did take the time to get myself another coffee because it's a long day and I need the energy, apparently. So we're roughly halfway through. And with that, it's time for our next lightning talk. Our next speaker is Daniel Kim. And a fun fact about him that I heard just before we kicked off is that he took 2 years off after high school to travel the world. So with that, welcome to the virtual stage. Daniel, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, especially now I've got my coffee in my hands.
Same. I have my giant jug of coffee right next to me that is powering me through this talk. So hopefully you'll be as energetic as I can be.
Excellent. All right, well, have a lot of fun and I will catch you after your talk.
Sounds awesome. So yeah, hi everyone. My name is Daniel. Welcome to my talk, DevOps for High Schoolers. Feel free to follow me on Twitter. It's at Learn with Daniel on Twitter. So a little bit about me. My name is Daniel Kim. I'm a senior developer relations engineer at a company called New Relic, which is a monitoring and observability company. I'm also the president and founder of a nonprofit called Bit Project, where we teach high schoolers how to code. So a couple of facts about me, on top of the fact that I like to travel, is that I'm really new to DevOps. I started this job after getting no experience in DevOps. I was a front-end developer advocate for 7 months, and then I started my new job at New Relic, and I started learning and diving really deep into infrastructure and how DevOps works. So I'm really new to the whole thing. I have a very short attention span. I think I have ADHD. I love GIFs and I'm really fun. So please be friends with me. Like follow me on Twitter where we can be buds, We can go get boba or something. So when we think of DevOps, like especially for a person who's really new to the field, it can be really overwhelming. Like I saw this GIF of a man with a computer, a phone, trying to figure out what's going on while there's like a meltdown happening. So yeah, it's very, very intimidating, especially for someone who's heard of DevOps or is experienced, has like experienced site reliability engineering for the first time. It's very intimidating, and you need a lot of coffee. Coffee, I feel like, is a running theme here. So here are simple, like a word cloud of things that people think of when they think of DevOps. It's like infrastructure, observability, SysOps, all these very like 3-4 letter acronyms that are really overwhelming and kind of intimidating for a lot of like new and younger developers who are just getting started in their journey. So how do we make DevOps fun and approachable? That is the point of the talk today. So a couple months ago, I decided to make a workshop called Error and Prod, where I can make DevOps and introduce DevOps to high school and college students in a more fun and engaging way. So what it is a fun, exciting, fabulous, amazing, cool extravaganza introducing students to site reliability engineering. So in other words, answering the question, sorry, I shouldn't swear. WTF is SRE, the name of this conference, but to a younger audience who actually doesn't know what SRE is. So today, what we're going to be doing is talking about the lessons learned that I learned from building a DevOps workshop for high schoolers. So here's a couple of lessons I learned. So the first lesson I learned is making it relatable. Because if you can't answer the question, why should people care? Your people are probably not going to care. And the biggest lesson I learned from my time as a student, which is only a couple of years ago, is that hello world and documentation examples aren't fun and whimsical and don't grab someone's attention. So let me give you an example. This is my friend Lizzie. She does not know I put her in my slides, so hopefully she's okay with it. She's a developer evangelist at Twilio. And the first time that I got exposed to the Twilio API was during a hackathon at my school called Hack Davis. And instead of going through the documentation, screen sharing the documentation, what she did to demonstrate the API was she had everyone text a number that she posted up on like a large screen. Instead of having documentation or code snippets, she just had a phone number. And she was like, hey, everyone, go text this number and you get something fun back. That's the first exposure I got with the Twilio API. And I'm like, that is really awesome because first I can see exactly what it does, which is help me receive things programmatically through my phone, which is super cool. And also it was fun and whimsical because I got poems back from the phone number. So I was like, this is a perfect example of how we should be introducing new and foreign concepts to students or people who are junior developers or even regular developers. It's a really easy way to show value and show why people should care. So don't do stuff for the sake of the demo. And it's really important to help folks understand the context of what you're doing. So here are some questions that you should answer in your workshops or your technical demos or things you do to show people what your technology does. So when would I use this and who would use this? So in this site reliability engineering workshop that I developed, what we did was we used a real production e-commerce app with simulated outages that teach folks about site reliability engineering. And because I work at New Relic, it's called NerdMart because our superhero is a data nerd. So what students were doing were they logged into the instance and they actually were debugging application performance issues in production. So we had a production app that was hooked up to our observability tool, and they would try to figure out through the UI what was going on and what could be causing the issue. So they were doing things like digging through data and logs to figure out what was going wrong. And it was really, really fun. Which leads to the next story. How do we keep students engaged? Because just having students dig through data and logs, while it might be exciting to some of us, including me, it might be not the most interesting thing to the regular student or the regular starting developer. So it's really important to have a story. So here's what I did. I was like, what did I do as a child that made me super engaged and kept me going? And it was games like Prop Tropica and Club Penguin and MapleStory. They all had a story and had characters, because having characters keeps students and developers and people in general more engaged and really important to good storytelling. So in our workshop, these are hand drawn by one of our designers in our nonprofit. We had a evil villain named Debug. Yes, I'm very funny. Thank you. He's a hacker extraordinaire and a villain, and he's the one that's causing all this chaos in production. And we had the security engineer, who was the person who would be the students who would be playing the workshop, who is stressed out and wants coffee, like all of us in this conference, trying to find debug, and is the student that is participating in the workshop. The third kind of biggest obstacle we faced when we were building this workshop is how do we scope DevOps for beginners? And here's a couple of lessons that we learned. So configuration issues suck. Like no one wants to spend more than 10 minutes setting up their environment. So if your workshop requires a very specific version of Docker, a very specific version of Python, and it will break if it's not, maybe it's not the most accessible workshop, which leads to the next point. Is it accessible? Can someone with a crappy laptop join in? Because not everyone has top of the line Macs with insane processing power. A lot of developers have old computers or like Chromebooks that may not have the processing power you need to run some of these really heavy applications. So it's really important to ask yourself, like, what needs to be installed? What do people need to have really powerful machines? Or could it be simplified without really affecting the content of the workshop, the meat and potatoes? Also, the third lesson we learned was how is it not overwhelming? Because especially when we're talking about DevOps and SRE, it can be super technical and intimidating, especially these three-letter acronyms and things like that. So it's really important to think about things like formatting, or if it's like too technical and filled with jargon, or does it read just like a course syllabus with everything you need to learn, but not really explaining the whys? That's kind of why DevOps is so unappealing and overbearing. You know, there's so many things. There's so many things that are so new and foreign to beginners, and we need to really break it down and simplify it for people so it's fun and exciting. So how do we make it engaging, which is the conclusion? So first, what we did to make it as engaging and accessible as possible is that we made sure that every single part of the workshop did not require anything to be installed on the computer. While this is like very possible for a very introductory workshop, We made sure that, like, I'm not saying everything should be in the browser, but it's really important to pare it down to the bare minimum so it's as accessible as possible. So we made sure that no coding was needed. And especially since the concepts are so abstract and foreign, we didn't introduce unnecessary complexity. We also made it a game with leaderboards and prizes. No one will say no to a prize. So we made sure that we gamified certain aspects of it. So we actually made it into a scavenger hunt where people who found production issues early, they could win a prize, which is great. Everyone loves prizes. So we had a leaderboard with hints and things like that. So students can compete with each other to figure out these outages and performance issues on the production website. And also we answered the question why, because as developers, it's really, as like students even, it's really overwhelming if you're introduced to a lot of high level foreign concepts. So we've broke down why non-SREs, like students, should care about uptime by relating them back to like, hey, have you ever seen a 404 error when you're visiting Amazon or things don't load? This is exactly why this is necessary. So breaking it really down so people that have no experience can understand is really important. So, I mean, every single presentation, workshop, things when you're communicating with someone, especially around the technical concept, should answer these two questions that I went over before, right? When would I use this, or who would I use this? So let me answer that for this presentation. So when would I use this? So I'm assuming that if you're watching this, you're probably into DevOps or like a DevOps practitioner already. So you're like, why would I ever use this? So high school students, I've found, are very blunt and never sugarcoat anything. They're very blunt. If they don't like something, they will tell you to your face. A little bit too harsh in my opinion, but they will tell you to your face. So if a high school or a college student or a beginner developer approves of your onboarding content, people who are getting paid to get onboarded will be having a party. I can tell you that right now. Because people want content and onboarding things to be engaging and fun, and teach them about how it works, you know? So it's really important to like take all the concepts that we talked about before, like accessibility, and apply it to whatever your technical education material you're building. Who would use this? This is also a very good question. This is not only for people who are teaching high school students. I've talked to solution architects that are working with customers who are looking to teach customers about the product or different technologies or frameworks. It's really good to use these principles to have really simple, awesome demos for customers, which is awesome. I'm a developer advocate. I use all of these principles when I do workshops to help people understand what I do, what software does, certain concepts in software development like DevOps. Developer advocates could use this. They're awesome. Engineering managers. So a couple weeks ago, I saw engineering managers doing demos after demos during demo day to the rest of the team on new product features and things like that. But I feel like if there's 50 demos in a row, it's really hard for your feature to stand out. So if you're an engineering manager, this is a great way, like applying things like simplifying your demos and making it fun and quirky may showcase the feature in the best light. So engineering managers could definitely use this. Also, Daniel could use this. I thought that's funny. Okay. Also, it's really good for customer enablement. Actually, one of our customer enablement teams is actually using the workshop that we developed for high schoolers to help customers up level with the product, which is really awesome. And anyone doing technical demos, it's always fun to throw in some fun things in technical demos. So here's the call to action for this talk is that me and a couple of friends at Bit Project, which is my nonprofit, are creating a series of workshops like this, ERA and Prod, to introduce beginners to DevOps. So if you're interested in creating a workshop around DevOps, and if you're interested in teaching people about how DevOps works and why it's so important, you should definitely reach out to me on Twitter. I'd love to talk to you and make DevOps more accessible and fun and quirky and whimsical. So yeah, that's my talk. Awesome.
Excellent. That was so cool. Thank you so much, Daniel. Hey, so how do I get on board with this game? Because that you're saying like, oh, this is good for this person, good for this person, good for these things. And I was like, oh, this actually like I just want to play it myself or like look at it and do the things.
Yeah, actually, the game is in closed beta. That's the word. But it will be released open source at the end of this month. But we're actually running it for our user conference in like 4 days for New Relic. So there's a hackathon that's going on there. And after the hackathon, it'll be released to the world.
All right. So also I got two more things that I want to know before going to questions. You said you think you have ADHD. I also have ADHD, so neurodiverse 5. But so
Okay.
you're going through the whole presentation. I was like, oh, this is fun. I can understand this perfectly. And the last thing, it's I think the correct pronunciation of GIF is GIF, not GIF. But we'll leave that for the comments.
Yeah. Let's not get into that today. I don't want to cause World War III here.
No, it's okay. I think Charlotte, do we have any questions from the audience?
Let me check. But while I'm checking, Daniel, this was an awesome talk, and I loved your slides. They were definitely a lot of fun.
Definitely.
The only question I can see is from Rafabot asking you to follow him back. I'm not sure this actually qualifies as a question, but it's a start. If anybody else has questions, feel free to post them in the chat, and Daniel can answer them there after this.
Yeah, to be fair, it did say, Daniel, I'm also fun. Can you follow me back?
Okay. I followed him back.
Excellent. All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.